House, a second one, exists is because these Republican congressmen argue that the leadership of the bipartisan House task force doesn't have the experience to be dealing with these matters. In the case of Congressman Corey Mills, he has specific work experience with the Secret Service and with advanced security planning. And he criticizes that, Republican Mike Kelly and Democratic Jason Crow in the bipartisan task force that was actually voted on the floor. Also worth mentioning that the bipartisan task force was voted on the floor unanimously, so everyone agreed to it. But then there's this separate investigation. So there's those three. Then there's a presidential investigation. The White House has an independent investigation themselves. And that one's supposed to have results by the end of this month. So it should be interesting. It'll be within the next couple of weeks. We'll have some information of an official government investigation into the first attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump.
Now, Louise, I don't know if we have the soundbite right now, but Connecticut Democratic Senator Sidney Blumenthal made some pretty interesting comments in the Senate yesterday when they were in session talking about some of these investigations. Refresh our memory as to what he alluded to, and also tell us, what is the status of some of these ongoing investigations? Of
course. Well, with Senator Blumenthal, it's almost foreshadowing to what happened this weekend, because on Friday, the Senate committee that is leading this investigation, the Homeland Security Committee, received an updated briefing from Acting Director Rhodes from the Secret Service. And after that meeting, Senator Blumenthal comes out and tells reporters that he thinks that the American public will be appalled and shocked at the results of the investigation, alluding to very clear lapses in the planning of the security service. But he was also specifically mentioning the lack of the Department of Homeland Security was not being forthcoming with the information requested by Congress. This is an interesting coming, obviously, from a Democratic senator on this issue. And on the status of these ongoing investigations, we know that the bipartisan task force on the House side will have its first results on December 13th. So, of course, that's a few months away. But today we know that they sent a letter to the Secret Service requesting an updated briefing, of course, with what has been going on with this second attempted assassination on the life of former President Donald Trump.
And just while we continue this discussion, you can see on the screen there, that was photographs that the FBI have released of the suspect's backpack that are still next to the AK-47, right at the scene there where the fence that abuts the golf course where former President Trump was golfing, actually, when this person was spotted by the Secret Service. And then eventually subsequently fled. And so we're going to be keeping an eye on the details as they come out. Louise, what have some of the lawmakers been saying? How about their reaction? Are they reacting?
Of course. Well, the first one I think worth mentioning is Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. If we go to Speaker of the House Mike Johnson's social media, he actually posted a picture with former President Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago. So he actually went there, met with him after the incident, the second attempted assassination against the life of former President Donald Trump. Then we have Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell in the Senate, of course, and he prayed that thank God that the former president is safe. I think it was also very interesting, worth mentioning, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, because he posted very plainly, political violence has no place in democratic society. But if we look 2 hours before that tweet, we see another tweet where he posts, extreme MAGA Republicans are the party of national abortion ban and Trump's Project 2025. We must stop them. Both those comments worth fact checking, of course. And then we have leader in the Senate, Schumer, posted that he just received an updated briefing from Acting Director Rhodes of the Secret Service. He applauds the work of the Secret Service in their labor today in preventing anything worse happening.
NTD's Luis Martinez will be checking back in with you if anything breaks. Thank you so much, Luis. And joining us now live is NTD's news contributor, Mike Leon. He's also the Policy and Strategy Director of the Free and Equal Elections Foundation, and host of the podcast, Can We Please Talk? Mike Leon, thank you so much for joining.
Good to see you, Steve.
Mike, I want to first start off with your assessment of the situation. What is your initial reaction to what unfolded at the former president's golf club today? You live in Florida. What is it like down there? And from what I understand, you've actually golfed at this actual course where this took place.
Yeah, that's right, Steve. So I live down here in Miami. Obviously, I live near the Trump Doral course here. And so I've played that course a bunch, but I've also been invited to play in the West Palm course before a few years ago. So know the layout pretty well. I remember thinking to myself when I heard about this incident, there's not that many places for civilians to be able to sneak onto the property, right? Because first, when the former president is playing at either the Doral location or this location in West Palm, is even more scrutinized, right? So when you get up to the gate for your entrance and you're telling the gate employee there who's an armed security guard about you're going to have a tee time at that course, there's a lot of things that go into checking your vehicle to make sure that you are participating, your tee time is confirmed and reservation, your ID matches. So those are some of the things that I just thought about at the onset of this because of having played there and having played at the same time when he's been at the course, right? And this was, again, a few years ago for me. So I'm assuming that the security will only be tightened as we go forward, but I can't imagine it's been laxed given what happened back in July, right? So those are some of the things that I initially thought about. And then I thought, it has to be around the 5th or 6th hole without actually seeing the reports, because that's where there are fence linings where people could potentially break the bush barrier that are these high shrubs and bushes that surround the outer parts of the course. And so when I saw that it was for hole 5 and 6, it makes total sense. So those are just some of the things in terms of the security breakdowns that are happening around the perimeter of the course, because his course layouts in Doral and in West Palm are very, very similar in terms of the singular roads that come into it, the gate entrance. It's all one free-flowing, one single entrance, like everybody's funneled to one entrance. So those are just some of the things at the high level that I thought about, Steve. But then on the flip side of this, it's that, Secret Service did their job this time, right? Because from what I understand, and speaking to correspondents who have been covering this across a couple different outlets, there was a Secret Service agent that saw this because he was a few holes ahead of the former president to ensure that nothing is happening. This is why they do these type of things. And so it was good to hear that this was uncovered, before the former president made it to that hole. And now, obviously, him driving through Martin County, which is about 30, 40 minutes north on 95. I'm going to be making that drive in a couple of days myself, going up there to visit family up along the corridor. So I know that county very well, passed through it. It shows that he was trying to make an escape and get back on the quickest way back, because the course is not that far away from I-95. So it makes sense that all of this is happening, but given the location, given the security breakdowns of the golf course layout itself, those are just some of the things at a high level that I thought about when I heard about this incident today.
Now, Mike, I want to get your thoughts when it comes to this being the second assassination attempt on former President Trump. Technically 3 if you consider the person that was arrested in Arizona before he actually had the chance to do it. Do we run the risk as a nation of becoming numb to things like this? And how important is it that we don't and take steps to, really calm the political tension in our country? And there was Mike Leon. We're having a bit of a technical issue there. We're going to try to get him back up. In the meantime, we can bring it back in studio here with Luis Martinez, NTD's Washington correspondent. Luis, let's get your thoughts on that question that I just posed to Mike right now. This is the second assassination attempt in about 2 months on a former president of the United States, the Republican nominee to become the potential next president. What does this say about the state of our country in terms of politics, and how do we bring the temperature down? And are we seeing calls for this in Congress?
Of course, well, we see the calls from Congress and the number of investigations. Of course, they're not giving answers soon enough. We saw that December 13 is very far away, and we already have a second attempt. Corrective actions that Congress lawmakers have achieved thus far. We do have to say that after the first attempted assassination, Congress held a hearing with former Director of the Secret Service, Kimberly Cheadle, and the hearing went so badly for the former Director of Secret Service, who could not give a single answer to lawmakers on what was going on, that then she had to resign, even though it did take her a couple of weeks. It's also worth mentioning, Steve, I think it's interesting that if we look at the rhetoric, the political rhetoric that we're seeing coming from lawmakers, and also obviously in the presidential race, if we look back at the debate this same week, and a political event like the attempted assassination of former president was mentioned only once during a 90-minute debate on what are the most important issues in the country. So of course there's something skewed there, that we're not paying attention, that there is political violence in our country, and not enough is being done. That, you know,
and to your point, Louise, when you say mentioned once, it was not brought up by the moderators.
Correct. So the only time during the entire debate that the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump, the first one, was mentioned was in a rebuttal from the former president, when he said to Vice President Kamala Harris that he probably took a bullet to his head because of the things that they're saying about him. And I think that's what I wanted to point out with House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries' tweets, because they talk about there's lawmakers on one end, one day saying that there's no room for political violence, but every other day they are posting and commenting that the other side is the end of all ends for this country. So of course that does raises up the tensions in the country.
And I don't know if we can go so far right now to say that we are entering third world territory, but you follow South America and Central America very closely. You're actually, born in Venezuela, so it's a country that you've seen go from the peak of kind of capitalism to the bottom of socialism. And so are you seeing any types of eerie similarities in how political discourse can evolve into a very dangerous place?
Well, I think that I don't mean to be highlighting the House Minority Leader's tweets, but this is the leader of House Democrats posting that Trump is Project 2025 when it's been already mentioned several times by the former president. It's also been verified that he has nothing to do, that this is an independent project by the Heritage Foundation. So it's something that is untrue. That is, of course, creating division in the country. And the same thing with a Trump national abortion ban. There is no such thing as a Trump national abortion ban. So I think that the use of rhetoric, it's something that is in common with populist leaders in Latin America, at least from my experience. There's always the need to identify an enemy. And it's usually the oligarchs, at least in Venezuela, the case it was against the elite or the rich, or there's an enemy that people need to surround themselves and not question authority in order to defeat this enemy. And we're seeing that in American politics, and at least from my experience as someone who just came to this country looking for that American dream, was not expecting to see tribal politics and the use of rhetoric to gaslight an entire society into one way of thinking.
And Louise, in terms of divisive rhetoric and the media's responsibility to give the full story to their viewers, put into context for some of these things that we've heard. We hear some of the mainstream media outlets talking about a bloodbath that Trump referred to, or that he will become a dictator on day one. These things are sound bites that can be taken out of context, and they can in turn be used to kind of incite extremists like we saw today trying to take the former president's life.
Well, the comment you make about bloodbath was mentioned again during the debate, during an intervention by Vice President Kamala Harris, where she was warning the audience, the American public, that Trump had said if he didn't win, there was going to be a bloodbath in the country. That Trump had said that if he got elected, he was going to be a dictator in day one. And again, it's unfortunate that the moderators did not use their fact-checking time during the debate to fact-check the vice president. Those things are not correct. When President Trump mentioned a bloodbath, that soundbite, if you look a few seconds before, he was referring to an economic bloodbath of what would happen to industry and manufacturing here in the U.S. And it's taken out of context and then made into social media clips. And that's how most of the people nowadays, new generations, consume information, are in 30-second sound bites that are in social media and need to catch your attention with these big words: bloodbath, dictator, Project 2025, which we could not stop hearing about during the Democratic National Convention, and when in reality it has nothing to do with the president, the former president's campaign.
Luis Martinez will be checking in with you throughout the hour. Thank you so much for that commentary. In the meantime, we're going to take a very short break and stick with us for the special coverage of the second assassination attempt of the former president.
The 2024 NTD 9th International Chinese Vocal Competition is scheduled to take place at the Merkin Hall Kaufman Music Center from September 19th to 21st. The grand finals will be broadcast live online worldwide. Semifinals and finals will be opened to audiences. Get tickets now at 1-888-477-9228 or visit vocal.ntdtv.com.
Did you know indoor air quality can be 5 to even 100 times worse than outdoors? Meet the Air Doctor. It's your answer for clean air and the only hospital-grade air purifier equipped with advanced Ultra HEPA filters, proven to improve your indoor air quality and overall health. Air Doctor circulates and triple filters the air in your room up to 5 times per hour. Say goodbye to pollen, smoke, mold spores, pet dander, even viruses, because the Ultra HEPA filter removes virtually 100% of dangerous contaminants down to 0.003 microns. That's 100 times smaller filtration than ordinary HEPA purifiers. This would have been in your lungs. Finally, get relief from allergies and asthma and reduce airborne disease.
It's pulling the pollutants out. It's even pulling the toxic chemicals that our cleaning products leave behind.
Call or go to tryair40.com now. Get 40% off our best-selling air purifier.
Call 1-800-876-0163. Call now.
There's a whirlwind of emotion and activity going on in this painting. And there's chaos all around and threat from below. The wolves surrounding her, and they're anything but unmoved. They're moving all the time, and we sense that. But this little girl remains unmoved.
She's in quite a perilous situation, but she's completely strong and serene, and she's actually meditating. It was very, very well liked because no matter what culture or what sort of walk of life you're from, I think people, they see it and they immediately understand what that energy, what that message is, and they're drawn to it because everybody kind of needs a little bit of that in their own life, of, you know, the steadfast calmness and something to hold on to. It's definitely an inner peace in the midst of something very chaotic, and for a lot of people right now, the whole world is very, very chaotic, so I guess that's another reason why so many people are very drawn to this.
Did you know indoor air quality can be 5 to even 100 times worse than outdoors? Meet the air doctor. It's your answer for clean air and the only hospital-grade air purifier equipped with advanced ultra HEPA filters, proven to improve your indoor air quality and overall health. Air Doctor circulates and triple filters the air in your room up to 5 times per hour. Say goodbye to pollen, smoke, mold spores, pet dander, even viruses, because the Ultra HEPA filter removes virtually 100% of dangerous contaminants down to 0.003 microns. That's 100 times smaller filtration than ordinary HEPA purifiers. This would have been in your lungs. Finally, get relief from allergies and asthma and reduce airborne disease.
It's pulling the pollutants out. It's even pulling the toxic chemicals that our cleaning products leave behind.
Call or go to tryairdoctor40.com now. Get 40% off our best-selling air purifier.
Call 1-800-876-0163. Call now.
The 2024 NTD 9th International Chinese Vocal Competition is scheduled to take place at the Merkin Hall Kaufman Music Center from September 19th to 21st. The grand finals will be broadcast live online worldwide. Semi-finals and finals will be opened to audiences. Get tickets now at 1-888-477-9228 or visit vocal.ntdtv.com.
My dad's name was David. He always talked about getting life insurance, and now it's too late.
No one was expecting my husband Dave to suffer from a heart attack. We didn't have life insurance. We thought we had more time.
Don't be Dave, and don't wait until it's too late to get the life insurance coverage you need. And if you don't have enough insurance to cover funeral costs, credit card debt, and other expenses, your family is going to get stuck with the bill. Call now to get affordable life insurance.
Just call 800-494-1562.
If you're over 50, you can't be turned down for this insurance, regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam, no health questions. Your rate will never go up. Your coverage will never go down. And rates start as low as $5 a week. Remember, don't be Dave. Call now.
Call now. 800-494-1562.
There's a whirlwind of emotion and activity going on in this painting. And there's chaos all around and threat from below. The wolves surrounding her, and they're anything but unmoved. They're moving all the time, and we sense that. But this little girl remains unmoved.
She's in quite a perilous situation, but she's completely strong and serene, and she's actually meditating. It was very, very well liked because no matter what culture or what sort of walk of life you're from, I think people, they see it and they immediately understand what that energy, what that message is, and they're drawn to it because everybody kind of needs a little bit of that in their own life, of, you know, the steadfast calmness and something to hold on to. It's definitely an inner peace in the midst of something very chaotic, and for a lot of people right now, the whole world is very, very chaotic, so I guess that's another reason why so many people are very drawn to this.
Former President Trump is safe and unharmed after what the FBI is calling a second assassination attempt on the former president in the matter of 64 days. Trump was golfing at the Trump International Golf Course in West Palm Beach, Florida, when Secret Service saw a man hidden in the bushes with a rifle pointed toward the course in the direction of the former president. A suspect is in custody, and multiple agencies are investigating the incident. President Biden saying in a statement that he's relieved that the former president is unharmed, and, quote, "There is no place for political violence or any violence ever in our country." We will have more throughout the hour on what happened at that golf course and reactions from the Trump campaign, as well as congressional lawmakers. In the meantime, I'd like to bring in Rich Giardino. Rich, thank you so much for joining us. Rich Giardino, are you with us? Rich, can you hear me? And we are going to go back to Rich as soon as we get communications established. In the meantime, the Secret Service and local law enforcement have said that they do have a suspect in custody following the assassination attempt on former President Trump. And in the meantime, we are going to bring it back in studio with Louise Martinez, NTD's Washington correspondent. Louise, what do you anticipate coming out of Congress this week following this second attempt on the former president's life?
Well, this coming week for Congress was already going to be a very busy week. They only have 2 more weeks before government runs out of money, and they still don't have a plan for funding government through fiscal year 2025. The idea was to vote on a continuing resolution. Republicans are proposing to have it attached with the SAVE Act. So what we're expecting, or what at least I would expect to see this week, is at least some messaging bills coming from House Republicans to condemn this second attempt on the life of former President Donald Trump. And obviously, we're in campaign season. It's a perfect opportunity to see if Democrats are willing to be on board with publicly condemning what is, of course, something that is destabilizing American democracy. We'll obviously also see this play out in the down the ballot races for the elections, because as we know, Steve, these elections are going to be decided by undecided voters, and right now this event will most likely move the needle. You'll see, obviously, Republicans down the ballot talking about the investigations into the DOJ, investigations into Department of Homeland Security, and into the what some people want to say conspiracy theories, but are all these lapses in security that have led to 2 attempts on the former president's life. So it will add to a very busy week in Congress, but it's a perfect opportunity to see how lawmakers vote on these issues. So I do expect to see House Republicans bringing some messaging bills to condemn what happened this weekend.
And so, Louise, how much do you see this changing the course of business on Capitol Hill this week? And separately, how do these types of events affect the image of the United States, the most powerful country in the world, on the global stage?
Well, to the first question, 2 weeks to the end of this Congress, unless they extend sessions, if there's a lack of a government funding deal, I don't see House Republicans missing out on an opportunity to have national coverage for messaging bills, or even hearings. Maybe they will try and subpoena Alejandro Mayorkas again, because at the top of U.S. Secret Service is, of course, Department of Homeland Security, and it's not the first thing that House Republicans have been complaining from Mayorkas in the past 3 years. Let's remember that they passed an impeachment in the House that the Senate just dismissed entirely. And in the second question, how does this affect U.S. image internationally? Well, we've seen in the past few weeks that there was a member or a potential Chinese spy detained in New York working for 2 former governors. We also saw the DOJ coming up, or at least divulging information about Russian attempts to influence U.S. elections. And we've also seen in the past 3 years since the Afghanistan withdrawal how the U.S. adversaries are acting more boldly. We have Iran sending missiles to Russia, North Korea sending shipments of artillery munitions to Russia, Russia invading Ukraine, and obviously China exerting more influence and pressure internationally. So if they can see that, any person can just jump into a golf course and try and kill a former president, the candidate of one of the 2 main parties of what is supposed to be the leading democracy in the world, it does not show for a good show of strength and confidence in American democracy.
NTD Washington correspondent Luis Martinez, stand by with us for a moment here. Right now, to have a closer look at the security measures at the Trump International Golf Club, we're joined by retired NYPD homicide detective Peter Fercelli. Peter, thank you so much for joining.
Steve, you got Rich. Can you hear me?
Rich, I apologize. Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I'm sorry. Hi, Peter. I'm sorry.
Okay, so according to Secret Service, the shooter aimed at former President Trump from about 300 to 400 yards away. Given the proximity, can you give us an overview of how easy or difficult it is for a suspect to potentially hit this target?
Fence and also through the trees. That's very good work on his part. I also think it's important to know that this is being handled much better than the attempt in Pennsylvania.
Now, the shooter reportedly opened fire outside the fence line. Is that location a usual blind spot for Secret Service agents?
That logistically, it's very difficult to cover a golf course. And there's so much area to cover, and there's just so many agents and so many tools like drones and other cameras and things of that nature. So it's very difficult to ensure safety of a protectee under those environments.
Now, recently, Democratic Senator Rich Blumenthal, a Democrat from Connecticut, said that the American people will be, quote, shocked and appalled by the security failures surrounding the first assassination attempt against former President Trump. This was before today even unfolded. I want to get your thoughts. What do you expect to come out of that investigation, and how might this be perceived now with a second attempt?
Today, the FBI and the local sheriffs have taken the lead with publicity and releasing information. If you remember the previous attempt, the Secret Service hemmed and hawed, made all kinds of excuses, and blamed the local police. I have to give credit to the FBI and the locals because they released photographs, they released information on how they caught the individual, and they have been forthright with several press conferences already. I think that you're going to hear a lot of disturbing things come out with the initial report in December. And you have to remember, Senator Blumenthal is a Democrat, and he's at the forefront of the investigation. And I think they're doing a good job in trying to assess for the future what we can do. I do believe that you can't have enough security under these circumstances. And again, a lot of what we saw the first time, they're trying to correct by giving the message out and be transparent in the beginning.
And to your point, you can never have enough security. From what we understand right now, following the first assassination attempt, former President Trump's Secret Service detail was increased. It was evident at some of the rallies. You could see just right around him, there were more agents. However, it's still not as much as a sitting president would have. Do you think that this will cause Secret Service and possibly our sitting president, President Biden, to reassess the detail for Trump? Could we see an even bigger increase?
They should have done that the first time. If you recall, it took the attempted assassination of President Trump for them to give protection to RFK Jr. RFK Jr. was a prime target. He lost his father and his uncle to assassination. He had a burglary attempt at his house, and he had threats. And what Mayorkas said, interesting, is he said President Biden has ordered security for Robert F. Kennedy Jr., making you wonder if the reason they had not increased security for President Trump is because the White House was controlling and micromanaging security detail. I think that you're going to see a greater presence, and you're going to see greater partnerships with the local agencies. I do think it's important to know that a civilian in this case took photographs of the vehicle and the individual, and then the license plates were fed into what we call LPRs, which are license plate readers. And we have stationary ones along the highways. We have mobile ones that you can position, and we have license plate readers in police cars. And this worked the way it should. They put the plate in the system, and it was spotted. I think that the individual here, a matter of minutes later, the president would have been in trouble because he would have been right in the line of fire. So I think that it's very difficult to protect President Trump because how he moves around. But I think that they have learned from the last time, as far about the transparency, get as much information out to the public as quick as they can. Now, some of the stuff may still be faulty information because it hasn't been vetted clearly, but at least they're telling us who fired, how he was located, and releasing photographs. I think the prior director had to resign the Secret Service in lieu of her failure to respond and her, let's say, her being honest and fair with everyone. And I think everyone started laughing when she said the roof was too steep to put a Secret Service agent on. So that hurt the credibility of the agency.
Now, Peter, you know, obviously you have decades of law enforcement experience. As human nature sets in and, you know, human beings become numb to certain, you know, tragic events and trauma, try to put things into perspective. How normal or not normal is this situation that we're seeing, back-to-back assassination attempts on not just a former president, but also the Republican nominee to become the next president?
That for Peter or for me?
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry, Peter. Please go ahead.
All right, well, this is Rich. So here's the problem. The political rhetoric is very incendiary in that it takes mentally ill people, unstable people, who continues to put it in their mind that Trump has to be stopped at all costs. In fact, the individual that they seized today allegedly had posted the same things that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden had said about democracy is at stake, and if Trump becomes president, Americans will lose their rights, and it'll become a dictatorship. So I think the political rhetoric itself encourages this. I hope that this is the new norm, but I fear that this does numb people as we see mass shootings like school shootings, which also seem to add up. Each additional one, it desensitizes us to the violence instead of emboldening us to do something more about how to safeguard our schools and our students.
Rich Giordino, really appreciate you joining us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve.
And we'll be back with more of our special live coverage of the second assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. Stay with us.
when I drink it, the first thing was I feel the warmth in my tummy. It's kind of like gently radiating out, you know, a kind of a very comforting warmth. And it was really good, actually. I felt much better. I did feel, actually, the effect. And I find that it is actually better when I take it regularly.
It's actually steamed and dried 9 times. And so it's really, the essence is really extracted.
Then the second time, I tried it really like on an empty stomach and just 2 teaspoons of it, and over a few times. And wow, that was a big difference, because suddenly I could feel, wow, I was very good energized. I didn't have to eat. I could work outside in the garden for a couple of hours, and I still felt very well. And I was impressed by that. So I think it's a good product.
Being a cowboy, I don't know anything different from when I was 3 or 4 years old. I did tough things. I thought everybody needed to do tough things, and if you didn't, I didn't have time for it. I had a very successful career at a very young age, and life was fast. I was preparing physically. I wasn't doing anything mentally on the inside. And then I got hurt. I wanted to be better as a person, and I really dug into mental health. I start my day with 20-minute workouts. I live life 8 seconds at a time. Horses are so therapeutic. They know what you're feeling. When you're nervous, they're nervous. He won't say it back, but we're pals. I take a lot of responsibility in taking care of my kids, my family, and being there for them. You're gonna have tough days. Everybody does. Find a place to stop and just breathe. Love your mind.
There is a road laid out for me.
Boxes everywhere. And this is gonna be Addie's room.
I am blind,
I think you're really gonna like it.
I hope so. Yeah. I know this road is there for me. There is a long way.
First night here, but Amy seems cool.
The ways down by the river. I am blind, but I need not see.
I got this.
I know this road is there for me.
Okay.
If I'm really free, take me down to the river and wash me.
And welcome back to NTD Television special live coverage of the second assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump earlier today. To have a closer look at the security measures at the Trump International Golf Club, we're now joined by retired NYPD homicide detective Peter Fercelli. He's also a former deputy director of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives. Peter, thank you so much for joining us. Peter, if you could, please give us your initial thoughts on the second assassination attempt from a law enforcement perspective.
Well, I'm shocked in the first place that we're even having a discussion about a second attempt. As we are aware, the Secret Service beefed up the protection of former President Trump, but apparently it wasn't robust enough. Now, one of the challenges is that former President Trump lives a very public lifestyle. It's hard to cover somebody who's out in open areas, so frequently. But they dropped the ball here once again. And if it wasn't for the very observant civilian who was able to get the license plate number of that vehicle as it fled and relay that information to law enforcement, we may be talking about a manhunt, as opposed to an individual being arrested for trying to murder a former president and current presidential nominee for the Republican Party.
Peter, do you think that there needs to be a broader discussion right now about sort of this radicalization that we're seeing and this political extremism?
Yeah, and look, one of the bigger problems that I see is that some of the problems that are driving this are the words that come out of the mouths of our elected officials. The rhetoric is just so vitriolic and venomous that it takes folks who might not be mentally stable and pushes them over the edge. You know, looking at Ryan Wesley Routh and his posts, which I got a chance to look at some of his Facebook postings before it was his account was shut down. Troubling. I mean, he clearly viewed himself as some sort of a mercenary. A lot of postings about recruiting soldiers to fight in the Ukraine. Others alleging that he had the ability to take fighters from Afghanistan and send them to Haiti. Just very interesting stuff in a bad way. And I can't for the life of me see how he was not on the radar of the FBI or some other federal law enforcement organization based merely on the stuff that he was posting on social media. I mean, that stuff is scoured. They look for keyword searches to look for people who have a propensity for violence. And this guy fit that bill squarely.
And to your point, there are other reports coming out saying that he had posted things more sympathetic to the Chinese Communist Party when it came to the students protesting in Hong Kong as well. According to Secret Service officials, this shooter that we're talking about right now, he aimed at former President Trump from roughly 300 to 400 yards away. Given that proximity, it sounds far, but give us an idea with the type of gun and scope that was used. How far was it in those terms?
Well, look, the chances of making that shot are not as they're not as likely as the shooter that happened in Butler. The AK-47 variant rifle that he used is not as accurate as the AR-15 platform rifle. It's not an impossible shot. The fact that he can get that close with a semi-automatic rifle is incredibly troubling. My understanding is it had a scope on it. The other thing is I'm aware that his backpacks had ceramic tiles in them. Now, what a lot of folks don't know is that law enforcement officers, above their soft body armor, will often wear ceramic plates to protect them from rifle rounds. So clearly what he was trying to do was put together a poor man's version of body armor. So this shows that there was some degree of planning and premeditation here. But we got lucky. Once again, the nation dodged a bullet.
And to your previous point about the suspect's social media posts, there are reports that it's been, washed or shut down. Why would we see that? There are a lot of people that are calling for more transparency. Is this typical protocol?
Yeah, at times, look, the FBI will ask for people to shut down these sort of sites while they scour through it. The other thing is there's concerns that maybe there are postings in there that are designed to communicate with other people, other co-conspirators. So they want to cut off that line of communication. So I don't necessarily always think it's an effort to keep the public in the dark. Sometimes it's an effort to actually protect public safety. My understanding is X, Elon Musk's platform, kept some of the postings up, but I know Facebook did shut those postings down. They shut down his whole account. I did get a chance to somewhat thoroughly look through it before it was shut down, though. As soon as his name was mentioned in news reports, I wanted to get an idea of what this person was about. And again, very, very troubling, very interesting guy. And like I said, in the worst ways possible, a lot of venom, a lot of vitriol. But again, I think that he feeds off of some of the stuff that are coming out of the mouths of our elected officials. And that needs to stop. I mean, look, this is not in the best interest of public safety because people can't get hurt aside from the protecting, as we saw in Butler. I mean, a man was killed there. So, I mean, it's tragic. That we're having this discussion again is troubling, offensive. I mean, you name the adjective and it's a big problem.
Yes, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Have a great evening.
And that is all we have for you this evening on our special live coverage of the second assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump. Stay with us tomorrow as we will be bringing you all of the breaking news as it unfolds on this event. I'm Steve Lance. Have a great evening. We'll see you back here tomorrow.